Hello, folks. I am going to tell you about this MAP test and how to read the scores for that. I've received a lot of questions on that, and understandably so. You just took a test that took you a while and it was kind of stressful with all the technical difficulties. So you want to know, like, can I at least find out what these scores mean? And so I can determine how I did on this test that I worked so hard on. So I'm going to do that for you. All right. Oh, hang on. I gotta turn on my music so my headphones don't time out. Okay. So move this bar down a little bit. Okay. All right. So let's continue. The first thing you need to know about the MAP test is that it's not a standardized test. You guys are used to taking standardized tests in public school. And when I say this is not a standardized test, I'm not saying that this is not based on standards, because it is. This is based on standards just like any other test you've taken. However, it's not standardized in that everybody gets the same test, because that's fair, right? We're making high stakes decisions based on these tests. So it makes sense that everyone gets the same test when you're trying to decide something like, can this student go to the next grade? It's fair that everyone gets the same test in that situation. However, this test is not used to make high stakes decisions. It's used to determine what the student knows and what they're ready to learn next. It's also used to show the student and the teacher how much the student has grown since they took it last. So because it's computer adaptive, that means that each student has their own unique test, because every student gets a unique set of test questions, meaning if you're getting questions right a lot, it's going to keep getting more and more difficult. And if you're struggling, it's going to drop you down slowly and then bring you back up if you're getting right again. And so until you get to this taper, or not a taper, but a plateau, where you're not really getting or going down a lot, they're going to keep you at that level unless you keep getting right and you keep getting it wrong. But they're trying to determine what level you're at. So if you keep staying around here, and on the chart here it says this is a 200, you're answering questions about the level of difficulty of 200, that's your score, because they're going to give you a harder one and you get it wrong, so they're going to drop you down, you get it right, get it wrong, get it right. So you're about at 200, that's where it is there. All right. I thought this was interesting. I included the numbers that they used to determine the average scores and the percentages that you see when you get your reports back. We've got millions of test scores that they've used as to collect over the past few years to create the 2020 report. And they did their best to represent as much of the U.S. as possible. These are all done in the U.S. Okay, so when you're getting percentages back, they're comparing it to students in the U.S. Let's move on. All right, I'm going to take a drink of my Korean grape juice, which is, by the way, really good for you if you're prone to bacterial infections, which I am. It is super tasty. Korean grape juice. Okay, so let's talk about that score, the numbers. Okay, so what I'm going to explain to you is what is called a RIT score. Okay, that's that 3-digit number you saw at the end of your test session, and you'll see it on your report when you get it back as well. So I took this from their website. It says the NWEA MAP growth test uses a scale called RIT to measure student achievement and growth. RIT stands for RASH Unit, which is a measurement scale developed to simplify the interpretation of test scores. Well, I don't know about you, but there is nothing simple about the RIT score. That's why I'm explaining this to you right now. Let's continue. how is the RIT score calculated? Okay, so I did show you the numbers of test scores that they use to determine difficulty. Don't ask me why they start at 100 instead of 1, but they did. So the scores range from about 100 to 300. It's trying to show how much you've grown the more you take this test over the years. So it said in the website that in high school you're getting to this range here, 220 to 260. So it's like, you every year, your parents might measure you and, put your tick mark there on the door frame if you do that. And so you see how much you've grown. And you're using the same measuring stick every year. It's not, the scale isn't changing. And that's why they like this RIT score, because they use it in every grade and it doesn't change as you move through the grades, from what I understand. That's what's going on here. So you're getting the higher range now because you're in high school, the higher range of this range here, and they want you to, in high school, be between 220 and 260 for your test that you take. They use the same scores for every test. So this score is, they want you to be in this range for the reading and math. I pulled this also from their website. It showed the average, the mean scores based on the 2020 data report they just finished up. They used test scores, like I said earlier, from the last few years. And you can see here that you'd be in the 11th grade range for the math and reading. And you can see that when students took it in the fall of their 11th grade year, the average score was 223, which is the lower range between that 220 and 260 that they were hoping for. They reported in their 2020 report that student achievement has been going down. So that range, 220 to 260, may change. But they're saying that the achievement has gone down for students in 2020. I'm hoping that you guys prove them wrong and get higher than that average, that mean score for fall of your 11th grade year. And it's 231. We'll round it up. It's 232. For the math in your fall of your 11th grade year. The SD stands for standard deviation, and if you are a math whiz, you know what that means. I do not, but standard deviation is what it stands for. Okie dokie, moving on. All right, so ideally, as you might have noticed, students take this a couple of times at least every year. So like, it's like if you had practice ACT tests that you did on your own, for a math and a reading, you do that practice and, you get your scores back just for funsies. Because this is a non-high stakes test that measures growth. It's not meant for decision making, such as moving to the next grade level or going in your GPA or your transcript. But the difference between taking something like this and taking the actual ACT practice test is that theoretically, if you were taking this several times, a couple times a year for a few years, it's that same measuring stick of growth, as opposed to the ACT, which you only take in high school. Obviously, you've only taken this once, so we're not really going to see your growth. But what we are going to see is the ACT and SAT predictor scores that it's going to give you, which you did not see when you ended the test session, but you'll get it back in your student reports, which we will be getting to soon from what I understand. So that's the end of my slideshow. I wanted to cover one more thing. A lot of students want to know how they can access their scores. I did a lot of research today trying to figure that out. I did some emailing. But I did not get an answer except for that teachers can log into the website and see student scores. I tried this out myself because I have the login, which is why I was able to give you the test. And I can see your scores in my dashboard when I log in. But I did not see anything that showed where students could log in to see their reports. So what I'm thinking this means is that you guys are going to be getting the reports either from NWEA, the company that made this test, or from the school, or from specifically me. I have not gotten that information yet. But I can ask if I'm allowed to share with you the scores that I see in my dashboard. But, you know, it is a test, and I want to just make sure before I give them to you. But if you have any questions, please let me know. I've included my email here on the slide because even though I've told people over and over again, people still type Kayla.Bullock instead of K Bullock. I just don't know. I didn't make that email address. I don't know how it got there. They even had my picture at one point, so that was weird. Ooh. Cran grape juice, yummy. Alright, well guys, I hope you have a good evening, and I'm going to get some rest so that I'm ready to teach you guys tomorrow. I'm going to cuddle with my kitties. Have a good night. That's all for today. I do not know how to turn this thing off. Oh, it's up there.